Hi everyone, good evening or good afternoon. Uh, it is so nice that all of you could join us for this amazing introduction. I want to introduce very is
But
that's what his formal introduction says. But I want to tell you something. Dinesh, me, and Ankita, we have been running the Shrishi Center of Healing Arts Craniosacral Therapy program, and a lot of our training is based on his absolutely amazing book called Wisdom in the Body. We use it extensively, and this is really a fanboy moment because I am talking to the author of the textbook that we kind of refer to, and that so many of our students, more than 200 of them now, have been referring to for the past 2-3 years. So he has more than 35 years of experience with craniosacral therapy, and he has courses running in Russia, Germany, Sweden, Denmark, even China and Poland, and hopefully very soon we will get him to India once this virus situation is sorted. Yes, Michael, I hope I didn't jump the gun on that, but we really want to have you here and have some of your courses here. And he graduated from the College of Osteopaths in 1986. Then he became a senior tutor, and he was a senior tutor at the International Cranial Association Center for Professional Development in Osteopathy in the University of Westminster. And basically, from the stories that I've heard about him, he's just this really nice, wonderful, warm person. And we're really looking forward to having this little interaction with him, where we are going to explore alternative healing in general and craniosacral therapy in particular. The other doctor on the panel that I should really introduce you to is Ankita Dhelia, our very own Dr. Ankita Dhelia from the Bangalore Art of Living ashram. She is also an accomplished doctor. She holds an MBBS degree, but that didn't stop her from learning alternative therapies and excelling at them. In fact, I think now she's kind of thinking that the MBBS is the more alternative part, and and this is the more traditional mainstream part, as it should be, though she will never admit it, of course. So Ankita and me are going to be asking a few questions to Michael, and Michael may be asking a few questions to us, and we are just going to have a little chit chat as we normally do on these shows. So, and Dinesh will join us in a little while too. So Ankita, why don't you start talking to Michael? And Michael, welcome, and it's really wonderful to have you here with us.
First of all, just to both of you, very big thank you for your warm invitation. It really is a pleasure to be engaging with you and to just be sharing some experiences around this work and this practice. So thank you very much for inviting me.
thank you, Michael, so much for accepting this invitation and being here with us, with our viewers. So, a majority of our viewers would not really know what craniosacral therapy is. And I was just getting a few messages today when we said that he excels in CST. They said, "What is this CST? I know CST. Oh, CST is craniosacral therapy." So, a lot of people don't know what it is.
Michael,
So if you could...
Michael, like we have Paddington in London, we have a huge railway station in Mumbai city, which is called CST. So most people think CST is a railway station.
Yeah. So in very layman terms, if you could tell us, what is craniosacral therapy?
Sure. So this answer could be very short, or it could be extremely long. And I'm going to really start with the short version. It is a gentle hands-on treatment that works with subtle motion in the body. And it works on the principle that in health, all of the fluids, all of the tissues within the body subtly breathe with rhythms of life. And this is a real kind of marker of good health. So when everything is functioning well, all of the tissues, all of the cells within the body are able to be free to express these subtle rhythmic motions. And we're not talking about lung breathing here. We're talking about a kind of deeper, slower movement, an inner movement within the fluids and tissues of the body. So the therapy is working on the principle that practitioners can learn how to sense these, the expression of these subtle motions within the body, and can also identify any places of strain or restriction. And it's considered that those places of restriction of movement act as a primary precursor to the development of disease and pathology. So where there is some kind of, let's say, strain or holding pattern taking place within the body, essentially it means that that area or that tissue or that organ isn't able to fully receive its, let's say, blood supply, its fluid exchange, its nerve impulse conduction, and in particular, isn't able to become vitalized by the subtle forces of life. And so practitioners can be trained to sense, to put their hands onto the body, to sense the presence of these subtle movements, and then to use a range of skills, but all of which are very, I would say, non-invasive, non-directive, but a whole range of skills to promote the conditions for resolution of these places of stuckness or inertia. And what we find when that happens is that people get better. They get better from just a very wide range of different conditions, and in ways that are often very surprising as well as heartwarming.
That's a lovely definition of craniosacral therapy. Thanks, Michael. And what, according to you, do you think is the best thing about CST? About what is, like, what is the USP?
I would say a few things. There are a lot of therapies, a lot of treatments that come under the umbrella that are called holistic. You know, we are a holistic therapy. We look at the whole person, the body, the mind, the spirit. And of course, I think this is true. There are many traditional forms of healing that really encompass these different aspects of what it's like to be a human. One of the things that I find is unique about craniosacral is that it gives very direct and experiential ways to work with the whole human being. So that this word holistic is not, you know, it's not just a name that we give it. It's not just a theory. It becomes something very, very practical. So for example, in the practice, we look at the body as a whole unit of function, a whole interconnected system. We describe it as a Biotensegrity System, which means a system in which everything is interrelated. If there's something happening in one part of the body, the whole body has to compensate for it. If something happens in another part of the body, then again, it affects the whole. So we look at the whole as well as looking at the specific areas and the specific organs and tissues within the whole. But Craniosacral work isn't only orienting to the whole of the physical body, it also is acknowledging that there are fields of function that extend beyond the skin. And in very direct ways, the practitioner can also relate to, can also sense these fields of function that have long been recognized in, as I say, in many traditional forms of medicine. But we develop ways to sense these fields and to work with the subtle movements and the subtle rhythms that get expressed within these fields. And these fields really extend from being quite close to the body to wide fields of function that extend right out into the environment and right out to the horizons all around us. So there are also these vast fields of function in which we live and move and have our being, which we're always in a dynamic interrelationship with. So healing becomes very much a function of how we are able to be in relationship with all of these fields of function, from the microcosm to the macrocosm. That if everything is in a state of, we could say, resonance or interconnection, a sense of interchange and communication, then everything is functioning well. The body is becoming vitalized. We find our kind of natural place, as it were, within the world, maybe within the universe. And so healing is really able to take place at quite an in-depth place. The other piece, which, if I can call it a piece, it's not the right word, but which is, I think, so precious and so beautiful in the practice that we do, is that not only does craniosacral work acknowledge these forms, these from kind of gross physical form to the subtle forms that surround us and in which we live, but it also acknowledges what is behind those forms, what is, in a sense, prior to all of those forms. And this takes us very much into the realm of a place which maybe the words, we all, after 35 years, I still struggle for words with this, but this is a realm of just inherent stillness, inherent spaciousness. We could call it the very ground of our being. Not just of our being, but the very ground of everything. And again, this is something that has been recognized in many traditional forms of medicine, as well as in many spiritual forms, that there is the world of form, but there is also the formless. And in biodynamic, particularly what we call the biodynamic approach to craniosacral therapy, this sense of interconnection and interchange becomes primary.
Okay. Ankita, would you like to ask Michael the next question,
So
please?
beautifully put. Even I am at loss of words after this. It's such a nice way to put this. So, what would you like to say about the inherent intelligence of the human body?
Okay. Well, no matter how awful we feel, no matter how sick we are, no matter how depressed we are, no matter, whatever conditions, whatever drugs, whatever, difficult circumstances, there is an impulse within each of us to heal. There is an impulse within each of us to move towards our natural state, which is wholeness. One of the pioneers of this practice talked about this. He gave it a phrase. He called it the bioenergy of wellness. His name was Dr. Roland Becker, and he was a student of the main founder of this practice, who was an American osteopath called Dr. William Sutherland. So Dr. Becker described this bioenergy of wellness as an active principle that plays through each one of us. And he said, this is the most powerful force in the world. In other words, this impulse, this active principle to find health, to heal, to become whole, is something that is totally indestructible. Doesn't matter how, as I said, what awful conditions we may be in or what awful conditions we feel. Excuse me, this impulse is always present. But because of perhaps places within our whole being that have become, let's say, fragmented or disconnected, or places within ourselves that have become stuck or inertial, this natural impulse to heal becomes compromised. And as a result of that, we can develop, disease, we can develop pathology. So really the role of the practitioner is just to support conditions whereby this natural impulse, this natural bioenergy of wellness can express, let's say, more fully without restriction. But this is something that we rely on, is that, each one of us will heal given the chance. Of course, most of us, we don't know how to create the conditions to give us the chance. When I was studying many, many years ago naturopathy, one of my teachers gave us, when we were in the class, this adage. He said, it's a very beautiful phrase. He said, there is no such thing as an incurable disease. There are only incurable people.
Beautiful. This gives such a big ray of hope in this time when people are so scared with this disease lurking all around, that there's this natural impulse to heal. So you just mentioned about your time, and when Bao was giving your intro, I was seeing you were studying osteopathy when I was not even born. So would you like to tell us something about your journey with CST and what made you choose craniosacral therapy to study it and to practice it and even teach it?
Yes, I think I can answer that question in one word: despair. In my early 20s, I was at a huge crossroads and just did not know where to go, what to do. I had a loss of energy and just, really was struggling. And I was recommended to go to see a cranial practitioner, and just felt immediate benefit, immediate effect. I mean, even though I felt immediate effect, I carried on the treatments for about 2 or 3 years because there was a lot of work to do. But it was really through my own experience, first of all as a patient, but this really set me on the path. Actually, interestingly enough, I have a little bit of family history in the healing arts, in that my grandmother was a healer and my great-grandmother was a healer. And during this time, I would spend a lot of time with my grandmother. And, as my mother and father were getting very worried that I was getting interested in all kinds of weird and cultish things, I would try to discuss these concepts, these ideas with my grandmother, and she was very, very encouraging, very empowering. And she would say, yes, Michael, this is great. You must look at this. You should go ahead. You should do this. And so I really felt like I got this kind of support from her to carry on and, and to continue. So I started to learn various forms of healing arts, from body work to various forms of so-called energy healing. And after a couple of years of this, it was then that I decided to enroll on what was in those days a 6-year program in osteopathy in London. It was a 6-year part-time course. But it was really cranial work that got me interested in osteopathy in the first place. This was my first experience of this practice. And so we learned it in osteopathy school, and although it was very, very basic. And I think at that time, the osteopathic school were a little bit desperate for teachers. And I remember I graduated in the July, I think it was 1985, 1986, something like that. And they said, well, will you come and teach? We need some teachers in September, which was crazy because, I was really a kid with very little experience. But I said to them, look, I'm very happy to teach, but just give me cranial lectures to do because this is really my interest. So I started to do some teaching, and it really just kind of grew and developed from there.
I had, like almost 20 years ago, I had a very bad slip disc, and I was I was advised to have it operated, and somehow I just didn't feel that was correct or right for me. I said, no, I'm not gonna get myself cut open. Forget it, not happening. And so the doctors there, they said, okay, then you just need to be in bed flat on your back for maybe a year. And I said, okay, that's fine. And at that time, a dear friend of mine, Dr. Kapil Mathur, who happens to be a British osteopath, he also studied at the London School of Osteopathy. He happened to come to India, and yeah, he did a lot of osteopathic manipulations with me, which I think sometimes were more painful than the slip disc pain. But he managed to get me walking in the 5-6 days that he was there with me. After that, I was in Bombay, and Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar ji, he called me and he said, now that you are a little mobile, you come and stay in the ashram. You will heal faster. And at that time, there was somebody from Europe who happened to be in the ashram, and he said, you go and take treatment with her. And I was like, do I have to? Because it was so painful the last time. But this treatment was like totally different. And Michael, I now that I'm teaching craniosacral therapy, of course, it makes sense. And you just mentioned that it is holistic in nature. But I remember that I had the problem in my lower back, and she would sit at my head. And I would wonder, what the hell is she doing on my head? My problem is down there. But just like you, amazingly, I would feel the pain dissipate. I would feel, my spine kind of releasing stuff. And I would just feel so much better. And at that time, I had no idea I was taking craniosacral therapy, and that was my introduction to craniosacral therapy. And of course, years later, I kept taking the treatment, just like you. You said you went on for 2 to 3 years. I also, whenever I could get a chance, we used to call them treats. Can I have a treat, please? And whenever I would have a chance, I would tell, please give me a treat. And then we learned a few basics, because she was not going to be there in India for too long. So we just learned a few things from her. And then much later, after that, we did a formal course. Ankita, Dinesh, and me actually did a formal course in craniosacral therapy. And we were blown away by the kind of results that we could create. It was also a 2 to 3 year program, 2-year program. And it just snowballed into us making our own course, of course, with the blessings of Gurudev. You know, when we were taught, there were many places where I felt I could teach this better. I felt that, you know, I could say this in a much more different way. I could make this so much more interesting. And I think Gurudev caught on onto that desire of mine, and he allowed us to create this course. And of course, we consulted so many osteopaths, so many craniosacral therapists from all over the world, and we put this course together. But I think this is one of the few courses that I know that deeply integrate meditation and spirituality into the process. So it's not like you go home and meditate, we make you meditate in class. And so my question to you would be, how important do you think is spirituality and meditation to this work?
Yes. Just to kind of backtrack a little bit, Bawa, because I think some things you said are very important. In my initial description, I gave it this kind of very wide and general kind of view of what is craniosacral therapy. But what you've highlighted is something important too. This work is also very, very specific, and it can help people. You know, we can work with very specific clinical conditions like, you know, back problems, neck, you know, head, whatever, you know, digestive issues. So I think, you know, one of the other pieces that, you know, why do I do this work? Why do I practice this work? Well, very, very simple. It works. And personally, I haven't found something that works better for more people. So when I do, I'll probably start teaching that. But for now, I'm happy to be teaching craniosacral. Anyway, to come on to your question. If we go back to the very roots of the work, the very roots of osteopathy, as well as the very roots of craniosacral work, we will see that the developers of this practice, the founders of this work, had a deep, I would say, not only respect, but a reverence for the spiritual dimensions of life, and really included, we could say, the transpersonal dimensions as part of their practice and also as part of their understanding as to how we function as human beings. So what is maybe, I don't know, I don't want to give, you know, I'm in no position to kind of give definitions of anything, but maybe if we consider what is spirituality? Well, spirituality, we could say, is maybe we could say it's an exploration into the nature of the human condition. Yeah, so that we can really, truly realize ourselves, truly be aware of just our natural state. This is the same exploration in craniosacral therapy. This is the same thing that we're doing, except we're doing it in relationship. And you described, you know, that as part of your craniosacral training, you did a lot of meditation and a lot of meditative practice. And there's no doubt that a meditation practice can support us as we learn, I would say, of course, not only this particular modality, but anything in life. I mean, if meditation practice can help us to connect with who we are and a little deeper with our deeper source, it doesn't matter what endeavor we are doing, what is our field of activity, it will be more connected. It will be, you know, let's say, more true. But this is something which is very explicit within craniosacral therapy. It's something that we talk about, we acknowledge, and we practice. I sometimes refer to this work as meditation in relationship. Normally, when we go into meditation, you know, we can go to our room or to our cave or whatever it is, and we we'll do our practice and we'll sit quietly and, maybe we'll come out and get some further instruction. It's not too dissimilar, except in craniosacral work, we're doing it with our hands on. We're exploring the nature of the human condition. We're exploring subtle functions, subtle motion. We're exploring those parts of ourselves that feel unhealed, unresolved, whether it be on a physical level, whether it be on an emotional level, a psychological level, on an energetic level. And we're trying to create conditions whereby these things can come back into a greater sense of wholeness and a greater sense of balance. So I would say the work itself is inherently spiritual. But it's not, I would say it's not necessary to, to be to have a particular spiritual practice, or it's not necessary, you don't have to be Buddhist, you don't have to be Hindu, you don't have to be, Christian in order to do this practice. I think maybe I think a spiritual practice can support us. It can support our connection. It can support our understanding. But it doesn't really matter, because within the practice of the work itself, we learn ways to sit quietly. We learn ways to listen. We learn ways to tune into ourselves, and we learn ways to tune into others. And we learn ways to connect with the wholeness of life and the source of healing. So sooner or later, we're going to get spiritual. Whether you have a spiritual practice when you're learning it, I don't know if it's important or not, but because it's there anyway.
Right.
I remember this.
Yeah,
Dinesh, I used to.
1 second. He walked into the room about 10 minutes ago and he's been standing in the corner. So
we met in London maybe 2 years ago.
Yes, and I remember how warmly you welcomed us, and the timeless chat we had.
But I think your hair has grown since I saw you.
Is it?
Of course, I was.
I want Ankita to share how she dropped her hardcore medical inclination and turned more towards the alternative side. Ankita, no holds barred. Come on, give it to us.
Just before that, Bao, I want to mention one thing. Michael was just saying, that meditation it's by and large, it's there. It's inherently present with craniosacral therapy. So when I had just done osteopathy and craniosacral therapy also, Dinesh Bhai used to tell me, you are lucky. You get, when you do osteopathy, it is like an assisted workout. So you get paid to work out. And when you do a craniosacral therapy, it is assisted meditation. So you get paid to meditate. So what else do you want? You have a paid workout and a paid meditation. So how I joined is, so how it is said, like how Krishna said, I am the way. If you have to reach the ultimate, you have to go via me. Jesus said that you have to go through, you have to reach the ultimate. Same thing Muhammad also said for Islam. So like that, I had this very strongly engraved in my DNA that allopathy is the way. Traditional medicine is the way. Rest, everything under this planet is quackery. So if you have done any other treatment, you will ultimately, you can do it, try it for some time. Ultimately, to get okay, you will have to come to an allopathic doctor. So that was a very strong view I had, and it was like very rigid and very difficult to break. And so I had like two incidences, I would say. One was when Dinesh Bhai had a very bad frozen shoulder. So I was showing him some physiotherapy exercises and some exercises I had learned with the shoulder, and I was telling him it will take 3 months, and in 3 months it should be okay. You're not really a strong surgical case, little here and there, and it would require surgery. And again, the same Dr. Kapil Mathur that Baba mentioned some time back from London, the osteopath from London, he did something, and Dinesh Bhaiya's range of motion with the shoulder, which was like, just still here, barely even reaching the head to comb the hair, he did a full, this movement, a full abduction of the shoulder, and like a full this movement. And I was shocked that how can this happen in half an hour or 1 hour? Like, it is impossible. So my foundations were quite, like there was a big earthquake that came.
The DNA was going through a rewiring.
No, I was still not ready to believe. So, I was like, okay, it works, but it's not my cup of tea. I want to do surgery, like surgeons are like up there. What is this? It's still okay. It's still a therapy, it's still a therapy. It's not surgery. So that was there stuck in my head. And then again, I had a little pain in my lower abdomen here. And I was told that you have a kidney stone, you have to get it operated and something. And I had also shown to a craniosacral therapist very reluctantly. Baba had pushed me that you show. And I was like, I don't want to get this done. I want a proper doctor. I don't want a therapist. But then, I think in about 20 minutes, my pain was gone. And same time, I had met in, I don't remember it very clearly, but what had happened, the person had explained to me that, your muscle here was tight, which has now loosened, and this is why you were having the pain. So it was nothing to do with the kidney or the ureter. That thing struck me. Like, any test under the planet, any CT scan, any MRI, any X-ray doesn't show a tight muscle. I would have been undiagnosed for God knows how long, and maybe they would have operated me for some kidney stone or something, and my problem would still not have been solved. And so I was like, oh, there is another way of looking at health and disease. So that was the time when I thought, oh, there is another way to look at disease. There is not just one linear way, okay, this, okay, this symptom, so this test, so this medicine, so this particular treatment. It is not so linear. So there has to be a multidimensional approach. There has to be a little broader way of looking at health and looking at disease. So that is what, it was like a big bulb that lit up inside. And then slowly, of course, I still needed a little more persuasion to do the course myself. But I remember when I started learning it, to tell you the truth, I had started learning it to just experiment it. I had never thought I will take it as a career or forget about teaching it later. But when I started learning it, so I was still at a hospital working in Calcutta, and when the people would come in, so I noticed they would walk in pain, they would walk out in pain with a big hole in the pocket with all the tests they have to do, all the medicines they have to take, and a lot of anxiety about whether they will get better or not. And so I would catch hold of them, take them to the other room, do a little bit of what I had learned, not really being a full-fledged therapist. It was still a very hush-hush thing that I was doing in there, just to take them and experiment it out. And they would walk back with so much of relief. Some of them I still remember, they would touch my feet and say, oh, I was in so much pain. Thank you for helping us. And I was thinking, oh, this is what people want. This is what I should be doing. This way I am helping people much more than I would help them with just medication. It's not that I don't practice medicine. I still do that. I still give medicine wherever it is required. And I still ask people to do tests. It's not that it's not important. It is very important. It has a huge role. Allopathy still has a huge role to play. But this aspect cannot be denied. This aspect that can bring about so much of healing in people and so much of relief from pain, so much of relief from diseases and illnesses, this cannot be denied. Like, this is the thing to do, to relieve someone of pain immediately. So then, of course, slowly, the shift from being more of an allopath and less of an alternative healer, it kind of the balance shifted a little. Actually, not a little, quite a lot. Yeah.
Michael, I have there are a few people asking on the chat whether it is possible for them to, just now online experience something of craniosacral therapy. Like, could they experience some movement, or you said some fluidic movements or whatever? Would it be possible for you to kind of, uh, knowing that they're completely lay, they have no idea about it at all?
Well, we can try. It's yeah. Let me just think. How would be the best way? One of the big challenges in practice is because we are feeling phenomena which are quite subtle. These are micro movements. These are very subtle movements, subtle forces that get expressed through the body. So, of course, if we are very, kind of activated and very speedy and stressed and tense, it's going to be almost impossible to feel these subtle, slow kinds of phenomena. So I would say, of course, this is so easy to say and not so easy to do. So this is why it's a practice. This is not just a technique. We can't learn this in 5 minutes. But I just want to kind of give it a little bit of a kind of a foundation. So one of the first things to do is really to get comfortable, is to see if we can just rest in our chair, if we're sitting on a chair or the sofa or the floor, and really just letting everything be as it is. So, normally we go about our daily business, we're managing things, we're stressed, we're trying to control this, we're trying to manage that. This is normal. This is just normal functioning in day-to-day life. But I wonder, how would it be if we just collectively, I've no idea how many people are online now, but probably people from around the world. But what if we all just collectively took a few slow breaths? And brought our attention into the sensations in our bodies, without trying to manage anything, without trying to fix anything, without wanting anything, without trying to feel anything, but just bringing attention to the body sensation. So maybe there are places that feel really nice and warm and fresh and open and vital. Maybe there are places that feel somehow held or restricted, even painful. And whatever is your experience, see if you can just acknowledge it. Now, again, this is something very easy to say, not always so easy to do, but see if you can just acknowledge it. Okay, this is what I feel right now in my back, or this is what I feel right now in my belly. This is what I feel right now in my head, whatever it might be. This is the feeling right now in my feet. And just allowing whatever is present, just letting it be exactly as it is, without any need to do anything, without any fabrication, but just allowing whatever it is. Okay, this is what it is. And then when we do this, it's a little bit like, we could say, when you have a glass of muddy water and you want a drink, if the more you stir and fiddle around with the water, the more muddy it's going to be and the less you're going to be able to drink. But if you just put the glass down and if you let it stand just as it is, the mud will slowly start to settle to the bottom, and then you can start to drink. So maybe we can just use this collectively right now as a starting point. whatever is our experience, whatever are our sensations, whatever thoughts, whatever emotions, whatever sensations, just allowing things to be as they are, and just acknowledge, okay. Okay, yeah, this is what I can feel in my chest. This is what I can feel in my belly, etc. So just taking this opportunity to slow down and let things settle. This is really just a foundation. I'm still in the preamble. This is not even the practice. This is still the preamble. Maybe we just take even just a few seconds, half a minute of just being quiet together. Letting everything rest, letting everything be as it is. So this is one of the things that, anyway, on our trainings, we do a lot of these kind of practices. And I imagine you are also doing these kinds of practices just to help us to settle, help us to tune in, help us to slow down. So then after having done this, we can just start to see what we can sense with our hands. You know, these instruments are, maybe the most extraordinary instruments ever developed. Incredible sensitivity, which we are only just starting to learn how to tap. And one of the things about craniosacral work is that it uses the hands in using very, very light touch. Sometimes we have the idea that, the more you press, the more you feel. Actually, the opposite is true. The lighter, just by letting your hand just really float on the body, the more you can feel. So if you want to just try, if you've got yourself comfortable and you want to try, you can try even just, resting your elbows and putting your hands just very lightly either side of your head. Or if that's not comfortable, you can just rest. I can't show you this because I'm sitting, but you can just rest your hands very lightly onto the front of your legs and hardly touching. This is the thing, that the lighter the contact, the more you can sense. And then if you can just rest like that, if you start trying to feel things, if you start trying to work out what you're feeling, you've lost it. So just drop it, just let go of any need to feel anything. In craniosacral work, we call this the practitioner neutral. The practitioner really needs to just be in this very neutral place of listening in order to receive. It's a very passive state for the practitioner to enter. It's not an active, it's not a doing, it's not a motor activity. It is a sensory activity where we're just really letting things come to us. So if you have your hands on your head or your hands on your thighs, just take a few moments and just notice, just be with whatever comes to you. And you may notice, you may notice all kinds of things. Maybe you notice, what's common is you notice, there's a different sensation in my right hand to my left hand. My right leg somehow feels a little different to my left, or the right side of my head somehow feels more open, but left side feels like it's pulled down and twisted a little bit, or just anyway, it could be anything. And we usually kind of dismiss these kinds of whispers. You know, we kind of don't pay them attention. We think maybe this is just our imagination. But if we really slow down and just allow these things to come to us, we may realize, well, maybe there is a great deal that we can feel, that we can feel maybe the subtle function, maybe even subtle movements that are taking place. Or maybe we can just feel qualities, like something feels hard or tense or stuck, and something else feels more spacious and open and free. So this is the kind of way. Let's just take a minute or two, just wherever you are in the world, just with your hands so lightly. If you should hardly be feeling the presence of your hands, because the touch is very, very light. But if you just slow down and sense, little bit by little bit, you may start to receive a little more information. You may start to sense slower movements, qualities, even shapes. Something may feel twisted or distorted. And this is the kind of, we call it palpation. This is the kind of sensing through the hands, using the hands as our instruments. This is what we do to tune into a patient and sense these kinds of subtle phenomena. So maybe we take just maybe another 10 or 20 seconds just to be with that. Okay. Now, in this kind of format, we don't really have an opportunity for question and answers and feedback. What did you feel? What did it mean? What was it? You know, I think for that kind of answer, you're going to have to come and start one of these craniosacral trainings, whether it be in India, whether it be with us in Europe. But these are the kind of exercises that we practice. Obviously, over a 2-year period, we can refine this kind of skill and learn to sense very clearly through our hands a whole range of different phenomena. So really, by the end of a training, it should be possible for graduates to place their hands anywhere on the body of a patient and to be able to sense, how is that region functioning? How is that system functioning? How is this whole body functioning?
Felt amazing, Michael. Really did. You know, I could feel some sort of expanding and contracting kind of a movement, and various parts of my body also kind of lit up. And I was checking the comments, and people are putting thumbs up and things like that. Uh, so that's great. My video is gone. It's because we have lost electricity. Okay, came back. uh, Michael, we have 3 more questions for you, very, very quick ones.
Yes.
The first one is, you have mentioned time and again, and we also believe very firmly that craniosacral therapy is a touch therapy. You know, you need to touch the person. It's about the hands, as you clearly mentioned. And yet, all over Instagram and many places on the internet, there is this thing called distance CST. I have lots of reservations about that. What is your take on it?
I have no doubt that distance work can work. As I said at the beginning, we are all interconnected through vast fields of function. We are, at some level, all in relationship with each other, and particularly where there is any kind of intentionality. And I think this can be really used. I mean, maybe this is what is at the foundation of prayer, is this sense of, healing and support and help for those who really are in need. But of course, it can be done very individually. So I have no doubt that distance work can be effective. I'm always asking people, though, not to call it craniosacral therapy. And because for me, there are a couple of essential elements that are part of craniosacral practice. And as you named, touch is one of them. Through the medium of touch, we're not only working with the subtle forces that are present both inside us and outside of us, we're also working with how those subtle forces manifest at a physiological level. Touch helps to ground this work in the body. Doesn't mean it's not possible to do without touch. Healing can happen through, goodness knows how many ways. Nobody, I would say, nobody has exclusive rights, thank goodness. Nobody has, patent rights, copyright on healing forces. Thank goodness. It can happen through, almost anything, piece of music, being on a beach, whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah. We could connect to our deeper health. Yeah. But in craniosacral work, we do this very much through the medium of touch to sense the results at a physiological level. The other aspect, which I think is really, for me, an essential element within craniosacral work, is that it is profoundly relational. It's very much concerned with the therapeutic relationship that is established between the practitioner and the patient. Of course, we can establish a therapeutic relationship at a distance. I feel right now, even though we are, so many thousands of miles apart, we are establishing a relationship, we are establishing an openness, a communication, and this is having an effect on all of us, whether we're listening or whether we're engaging in this conversation. So of course, we are in relationship and we are at a distance. But I think that this sense of therapeutic presence in direct relationship with a patient is something which is, for me, an essential part of what craniosacral practice is about. And whilst I respect the validity of distance work, I'm not ready to change my definition of what is craniosacral therapy. I'm not ready to say this is no longer should be defined as a light touch therapy. Yeah, this could be defined as a distance therapy that we can do, anywhere to anyone. So I'm not ready to do that because I feel there are certain things that come through being in direct relationship with another human being and actually putting your hands on them and touching them. That is very, very difficult, maybe not impossible, but very difficult to achieve through other means.
Yeah, we 100% concur with that.
Oh, I'm very happy. I'm talking to to what is it, a converted
We have
audience.
had
No,
so many
you put it
requests.
so succinctly and so beautifully that we are not against distant work. There is no doubt that distant healing happens, but just don't call it craniosacral therapy. Like, and I love the way you said that even music can heal you, but you don't call that CST.
Yeah.
you know, so that. Thanks for clarifying that, Michael. There is one more problem that we are. I don't know whether to call it a problem or not, but one more issue that we are facing, especially in India. There are few people who claim to teach people craniosacral therapy over a long weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Boom, they are craniosacral therapists. And of course, those courses are offered at like 1/30th the price. So a lot of people go for those courses. I don't know what they learn. And frankly, Michael, we've had to do a lot of firefighting because they go and do some things. Maybe they touch too hard or whatever, uh, and it's kind of giving craniosacral therapy a bad rap because these people say that they are craniosacral therapists, right? So I actually I was staying at someone's house, and that guy was saying I got a headache, and I said, let me give you some CST. He said, no CST. And then, what happened? He said, oh, the last time I took CST, I was vomiting and I was feeling so terrible. And then we did a bit of research, and we realized it was one of these people who had done this 3 or 4 day course, and
Yes.
I don't know what he had done, but it had left this person really sick. So, what could we do, or what do you think that it's possible to learn in 4 days? I personally don't think so.
So I don't know if you can hear me, but I've lost your sound.
Whoops.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
We can
I
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Yeah. No, I think I got your question though.
Okay.
I just missed the last few words,
Okay.
but I got the question. Yeah, no, I understand this is a concern. It is, it's happening. Of course, we live in a world, everybody is looking for a quick fix. Everyone is looking for a quick answer. I can't say whether people are good or bad. I mean, it's very difficult to know. All I can tell you is, how long have I been practicing? I think something like 35 years at least, no, 36 years. And honestly, this is not just, kind of giving you words. Honestly, I feel like I'm a complete beginner. I every time I go and I put my hands on somebody, I kind of go, oh, wow. Yeah, wow. You're learning all that, Now, I'm pleased that I have that 36 years of experience. But I don't know really. Maybe I share your concern. I don't think it's possible to. You can scratch the surface in this work. It's very interesting. Dr. Sutherland, who was the founder of this practice, in the foreword of one of the first books written on the subject, it was actually written by a student of his, he quoted a poem by the poet Alexander Pope. And the poem runs along the line something like, drink deep or drink not at all. Yes, and I think this is true. Once we go into this practice, we are working with subtle forces, but it's a powerful system. And if we do work with somebody in a way that is inappropriate and does not, synchronize in a skillful way to what their physiology is actually requiring, what it is needing, then yes, we can jar things up. And, what we do in the UK, I think it compares similarly to what you're doing in India. But we do a 2-year course. We have a 1-year also foundation in anatomy and physiology for those who need it. But we do a 2-year course. There's a lot of home study between the seminars, home practice. And I say to, our course is maybe, it's one of the longest that is around. And people sometimes say, they look at ours and they see a cheaper course elsewhere or a shorter course. And I always say to my students, this is not the maximum of what is needed. This is what I feel is the absolute minimum.
Exactly.
I mean, anything less, and I feel I'd be short-changing you, because this is the minimum that is required in order to develop a good foundation of skills, and to create a sense of safety within your practice, as well as a sense of confidence. And, I mean, I've been teaching it for all these years. I've not found a way to do it in 3 or 4 days. I need at least 2 years.
Yes, I so agree. That's what we keep talking amongst each other also, that even these 9 seminars, and we do it over 2 years as well, and it's almost a 700-hour course. The home study along with the practical. And even we feel that, we could give so much more, and thank God we've got advanced seminars. And Dinesh has a question for you now.
Yes.
So
I get asked this also quite a lot. How does learning CST and being a practitioner benefit one's own health and well-being?
That's a nice question. Let me answer it this way. One of the principles was really summarized by the founder of osteopathy, Dr. Still, very appropriately called Dr. Still. Anyway, one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Still is that the role of the physician is to find health. Anybody, he said, can find disease. And of course that's true. We don't have to go very far. If we looked at any one of us, we don't need to dig too far under the surface to find something that's not okay, or that's going wrong, or that's not perfect, or that's this or that. Doesn't matter. But this is the role of allopathic medicine. Is very much you find the problem and you try to eradicate the problem. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes it's really. Maybe if I had a large tumor, I might want to do that. That's, or if I had a broken leg, I would want a surgeon to know how to put it together. It has its role. Nothing, as Ankita was saying earlier, nothing wrong. But the approach in this practice is not about trying to get rid of the problem. It is about finding the health and supporting the expression of health. Now, these rhythmic motions that I was referring to right at the beginning of our conversation, essentially, these are expressions of health. When we tune in to these subtle movements, we are tuning in to fundamental expressions of health. Okay? We're also tuning into the sense of wholeness within the patient. Now, excuse me, but what better way is there to make a living?
Teaching meditation, Michael.
Yeah, maybe become okay. But when you are doing this, when you're putting your hands on a patient and you're listening for the health, you're listening for this bioenergy of wellness, you get the benefit of it too, because by nature, you're also tuning into your own sense of okayness. So you get healed. The work is very participatory. The therapist is part of the therapeutic process. The therapist is not some kind of, what is the word, objective, distant individual, observing a phenomena. The therapist is participatory. We participate with our being, with our nature, with our skills, with our presence. And when we do that, we get the benefit. We feel it. When I see a full day of patients, I used to do a lot more in the old days. I used to do more physical, mechanical oriented work, body adjustments and things like that. And I used to get very tired at the end of the day. If I see a full day of patients now, I feel very open, very fresh. at the end of the day, I think, oh, that was lovely. What a privilege to, to be spending the day in relationship to your own health and to the health of the person in front of you. What a wonderful thing. And to watch changes take place, to observe and witness people connecting, growing, and healing. Yeah, what a wonderful way to make a living.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Really.
So, Michael, do you have any questions for us?
Well, I'd like to know, Dinesh and Ankita, we met in London very briefly, maybe an hour or so, a couple of years ago. I'm very interested to hear a little bit about the work that you're doing, and that I understand now you've set up these 2-year programs in different locations in India. And I'm also, I'd love you to maybe talk to me a little bit about your teacher, because I understand he's been so instrumental in encouraging the practice of biodynamic craniosacral therapy and osteopathy. And I think this is, it's wonderful to, have the blessing of these masters to be able to, really support the kind of work that we do. And I'm very happy just to hear it. Be delighted to hear, some of your stories and maybe some of your, what is the word? Yeah, just, how do you envision your work developing? What would you like to see happening in India, let's say in the next few years?
Ankita, would you like to answer at least a part of that?
I would answer the second one. I would see right now. I envision Michael coming and teaching few seminars with our people in the future. Though I just want to mention here and thank Michael that just in 2 days, Michael has very graciously agreed to do a very exclusive class, a webinar for the students of Sri Sri Center for Healing Arts for our graduating batch. So a group of those students are having a class with him. So a little of my dream is coming true here. And also, all of us here, we really wish that, these trainings that are of the world international standard, properly designed trainings, which give the therapy the proper time that is required to culture it, following all the basics of anatomy, physiology, and all the principles that Sutherland, Dr. Becker, all these people, Dr. Sills, they have got in it, the essence of craniosacral therapy, all that is kept, and that kind of a training reaches people. We have been struggling with this. Baba would agree with me that we get a lot of requests for people who are not well and they are looking for craniosacral therapists across the country. So we have now, say 100 of them are coming from our school only, but still there are a lot of pockets, lot of states where not even a single therapist is there. So our wish is that at least every state has few therapists in there, so that whenever a request comes, people can be benefited with this. They can have an experience of it, and they can get such a nice, non-invasive, gentle way of getting out of their ailments and sufferings. So that is one thing that we have envisioned.
We want to bring this therapy to a lot more people in India. We want to create even more trainers. Right now, it is between just Dinesh, me, and Ankita, and doing trainings in 2 places in India. We do one in Rishikesh on the banks of the river Ganga, and one in the Bangalore ashram itself, which is a beautiful, quiet, serene place, just perfect for learning this work. And we would love to open up more places, but it's just physically impossible to do it, because when you're training and you're traveling up and down, and we like you said, we have a long course. It's a 2-year course. So yeah, we hope that we will have more teachers, and who knows, maybe we could even start teaching around, maybe in Europe. uh, uh, let's I hope that happens. And Gurudev, our guru, our master, Shri Shri Ravi Shankar ji, he is a person who has always supported alternative therapies, always, be it Ayurveda, be it osteopathy, be it craniosacral therapy, be it Marma, which is the Indian version of the meridians and the acupressure. So we have a lot of this happening in 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 the art of living itself, and though our primary purpose is to teach meditation, bring spirituality, bring the revive the Indian brand of spirituality, so to speak. uh, we find that all these things, they integrate very well into the main vision. And if it can help people, and like you said, if it can free, I mean, we have a few of our students who had software jobs, who have quit their jobs and are now doing craniosacral therapy, and they are so much happier, so much happier. And yeah, so that uh, I think that's where we are going. And it's just so nice that people who have been as established as you are, even though you call yourself a beginner, I would love to be a beginner like you, really. 36 years on this path, and that
One
you
day
support
you will
us.
be a beginner like me.
So it's so heartening that you support us, and yeah, and I guess with your support and with the support of the other other greats of this field, I think we can bring this to many more people in this country and the planet too. Hopefully join you in all those places that you teach.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And just, from a personal point of view, I feel very happy to be making these connections and yeah, just to be supporting this practice in India as well as in different places around the world, because I, like you, also believe this work has so much to offer. I believe it is the medicine of the future, and we will, we're just on that first wave. So, yeah.
And India is such a huge country. We have almost more than 700 districts and more than 700,000 villages. I would really like to see, in fact, Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar said that I would like to see one therapist, be it Ayurveda, craniosacral therapy, Meru Chikitsa, something, Marma, in every village, so that health of the entire community can be better. There's more happiness, more smiles around.
Beautiful, beautiful. And just on a personal level, just to share, I feel a very deep connection with India, having spent many visits to India. Many times I've been to India as well. And so for me to be talking about this with you and to be sharing these thoughts, these feelings, these experiences is a real pleasure. And to be reconnecting with a country that I really love and feel a deep connection with. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
And the greatness of a teacher is in how they can simplify the subject matter, and you have done it so beautifully. Your books are really cherished by our students, and this talk as
we
well.
give them some books and they come back with big question marks, and then finally we give them wisdom in the body, and then finally things start making sense. So yeah, this is really a lovely book on craniosacral therapy.
I'm
And
so
Michael,
happy.
thank you so much for writing it.
Thank you. I'm so happy that it's giving you the support and giving your students the support as well. So that's great. Thank you.
Ankita, would you like to end today's little chit chat?
Yes, I would just again like to thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation and agreeing to come for a little chit chat with us, which went on a little over an hour. We had decided to end it, at 45 minutes, but it's so interesting listening to you that we've gone on for 1.5 hours. And it was really beautiful. All the insights we got, it has helped answer a lot of questions a lot of people had. And I would just like to mention here, I was reading some questions that were coming on the chat on the YouTube, and literally you answered almost everything without actually asking those questions in your discussions. You kind of answered a lot of things that were asked on the chat there. So thank you so much for sharing with us, and we look forward to a long association together.
And 40 of our students are going to be having an exclusive session with Michael. Of course, that will be a much more technical session. It's open only for our graduate students, those people who have finished the 2-year training. And 40 of them will be joining Michael in a day or two, I think.
2 days.
Day after, yeah, on 23rd.
Day after tomorrow. And he will be giving a lot more to them. And we hope that we have many more such interactions. Thanks a lot, Michael. It was absolutely brilliant being with you.
Just thank you so much. And just to wish you well, I mean, we are living in such strange times. And of course, just to wish you and everyone listening just to stay safe and stay well. Hope that we have the chance to explore some more soon.
Good night, folks.
Good night. Bye. Goodbye. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so our